Good day, investors. If you had the chance to invest in the next computing revolution before it actually happens, would you take it? Because right now, there's a small company working on something that could completely change computing as we know it, and that's quantum computing. And in this video, we're taking a closer look at one of the pure play names in that space, Rigetti Computing, ticker symbol RGTI. This is a high-risk, high-reward stock, but also one that could have massive upside if the technology actually works. But before we get into it, remember to leave a like for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming investing videos. Thank you very much. So first, what does Rigetti actually do? Rigetti is a full-stack quantum computing company, and what that means is they don't just build one part of the system, they build everything, from the quantum chips to the hardware to the software, and even the cloud platform that companies use to access their machines. In simple terms, they're trying to build the entire quantum computing ecosystem. Now, if we look at this slide, you can see that Rigetti already has multiple quantum systems deployed, including machines with over 100 qubits. And these systems are based on superconducting quantum processors, which are one of the leading approaches in the industry. What's also important here is that Rigetti doesn't just sell hardware. They also provide access through the cloud, meaning companies, researchers, and governments can actually use their quantum computers today. So this is not just a research company. This is a company already building and deploying real quantum computing systems, even if the technology is still in its early stages. Now here's the key idea behind the entire investment. Classical computing is starting to hit its limits, and as you can see on this slide, we're running into some major problems. Moore's law is slowing down, energy usage is exploding, and some problems are simply too complex to solve. In fact, certain simulations would require an impossible amount of computing power using traditional systems. And this is where quantum computing comes in. Now take a look at this. Quantum computers have the potential to solve problems that would take classical computers years in seconds. They can handle extremely complex data much more efficiently, and they can do it with significantly less energy, which is a massive advantage as computing demand continues to grow. So the reason investors are excited about this space is because this isn't just a small improvement. This could be a completely new computing paradigm. Now let's talk about the opportunity, because this is where things start to get really interesting. Right now, the quantum computing market is still very small. We're talking about roughly $1 to $2 billion before 2030. But once quantum advantage is actually achieved, that market could grow to $15 to $30 billion. And even beyond that, the total economic impact could reach hundreds of billions of dollars over time. So what this tells us is very simple. This is not a short-term story. This is a long-term exponential growth opportunity. Now let's talk about what actually makes Rigetti interesting. Because in a space like this, technology is everything. First, Rigetti is focused on superconducting quantum computing. And that's important, because this is one of the leading approaches in the industry. It's also the same approach used by companies like IBM and Google. Now on this slide, you can see the different types of quantum technologies. And superconducting stands out because of faster gate speeds, strong performance, and scalability potential. But here's where Rigetti really differentiates itself. They are a full-stack company. And as you can see here, they control the entire value chain: chip design, manufacturing, the quantum processors themselves, control systems, software, and even cloud access. And this is a big deal, because it allows them to optimize performance across the entire system instead of relying on third parties. In a complex technology like quantum computing, that kind of integration can be a real competitive advantage. Now, this might be one of the most important parts of the entire investment thesis. Rigetti owns its own quantum chip factory, called Fab 1, and this is a big deal, because in most cases, companies rely on third-party manufacturers, but Rigetti does everything in-house. And as you can see here, this allows them to move faster in research and development, rapidly design, build, and test new chips, and continuously improve their technology, all within the same system. And maybe even more importantly, this creates a barrier to entry, because building something like this takes time, capital, and deep expertise. So in simple terms, Rigetti is not just building quantum computers. They're building the infrastructure behind them. And in a deep tech industry like this, that can be a very powerful long-term advantage. Now, the next big challenge in quantum computing is scaling. Because it's one thing to build a small quantum computer, but it's much harder to scale that into something truly powerful. And this is where Rigetti's approach becomes really interesting. Instead of building one massive chip, they use what's called a chiplet architecture, which basically means combining multiple smaller chips into one larger system. And as you can see here, this allows them to scale more efficiently while also improving performance and reliability. Now, if we take a look at their roadmap, you can see how they plan to scale this over time. They've already moved from smaller systems to around 100 qubits today, and their goal is to reach over 1,000 qubits in the coming years. And that's important, because reaching that level is what could enable quantum advantage, meaning quantum computers can actually outperform classical ones. Now let's talk about where the company actually is today, because this is where a lot of investors get this wrong. Rigetti is not just working on theory. They already have real systems built and deployed. For example, they've developed a 108-qubit quantum computer, which is one of the largest modular systems in the industry. And more importantly, this system is already available through the cloud, meaning companies and researchers can actually use it today. Now, if we take a look at how this technology is being used, the main applications right now include government programs, research institutions, and early enterprise use cases. Things like optimization problems, simulations, and machine learning. But it's important to understand, this is still very early stage adoption. Most of these use cases are still in testing and development. So while the technology is real, the commercial opportunity is still developing. So now let's talk about the upside. Why are investors even interested in a company like this? The bull case is actually pretty simple. First, the market opportunity is massive. If quantum computing works at scale, this could become an entirely new industry. Second, Rigetti is already well positioned. They have a full-stack technology approach, their own chip manufacturing, and a clear roadmap to scale. Third, they've been working on this for over a decade, with hundreds of patents and deep technical expertise. And finally, if they actually reach quantum advantage, the upside here could be enormous. Because at that point, they're not just competing in a market, they're helping create the market itself. So after taking a look at the fundamentals, let's now look at what the market is expecting. According to data from Stock Analysis, the current consensus rating on Rigetti is a strong buy, and the average price target is around $30.78, which implies roughly 85% upside from current levels. Now what's interesting here is the range. The low estimate is around $15, while the high estimate goes all the way up to $43, which implies potential upside of over 150% on the high end. And that really tells you everything you need to know about this stock. There's a wide range of possible outcomes. Some analysts see significant upside, while others are much more cautious. And that's exactly what you'd expect from a company like this. High potential, but also high uncertainty. Now, before we wrap up, let's quickly take a look at the stock performance and where it stands today. Rigetti is currently trading at around $16 per share, giving it a market cap of roughly $5.5 billion. And over the past year, the stock is actually up over 80%, but it has seen a significant pullback from its highs, which clearly shows just how much volatility there is in this stock. Now, looking at the fundamentals, the company is still generating relatively low revenue and is currently operating at a loss, which again reinforces the idea that this is not a traditional investment. This is a future-focused, high-risk growth story. So when we bring everything together, Rigetti is still very early stage financially. The company is generating limited revenue and is not yet profitable. But at the same time, they are making real technical progress. They've already achieved up to 99.9% 2-qubit gate fidelity on a prototype and maintained 99.9% single-qubit fidelity. They're focused on superconducting quantum computing, which is one of the leading approaches due to its speed and scalability. And looking ahead, they're targeting 150 plus qubits by the end of 2026 and over 1,000 qubits by around 2027. They've also started to see early commercial traction, with their first QPU order in Japan expected to ship in 2026. And right now, most of the demand is coming from governments, national labs, universities, and research institutions. So when we bring everything together, this is not a mature business yet. This is a high-risk, early-stage technology company. But if quantum computing becomes a reality at scale, Rigetti could be one of the companies that benefits the most. So in my opinion, this is a high-risk, high-reward investment, and only makes sense for investors with a long-term mindset. If you found this video helpful, remember to leave a like for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming investing videos. And as always, remember to do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Thank you for watching and happy investing.